Hello anybody and welcome to Let's Play Pikmin. I'm Mr. Devious, or just Deeb, and today we're starting a new Let's Play, an entirely new kind of game for this channel, and it's gonna be Pikmin. It was one of the, I wouldn't say it was a launch title for the GameCube because it wasn't, but it was one of the early titles for the GameCube, and it was like one of the latest new big IPs from Mr. Miyamoto that we know about. So hopefully I'm gonna start this right up, and hopefully we're gonna have ourselves a good old time. I'm gonna explain it as we start playing and as we go right into it. No, that's basically it.
My name is Captain Olimar. While traveling through space, my ship was struck by a meteor. I must have blacked out, and I awoke on the surface of a weird planet. With so many parts lost, the skeletal hull of my beloved dolphin is a painful sight. The engine is gone. I'm stranded. To make matters worse, my atmospheric sensors indicate this planet's environment contains high levels of poisonous oxygen. My life support systems can function for only 30 days. If I can't repair the dolphin by then, no! Better not to think about it. I must find the missing ship parts.
So immediately we come into the game after that cutscene and we are given control. We are able to wander around with this nice doofy little music. You don't actually get any camera control here just yet. You can look at the dolphin, his ship. I have recovered 0 of 30 ship parts, and that just kind of tells you immediately that there are 30 ship parts that you're going to be collecting. So that's basically the plot of the game and the entire core of the action. So yeah, so far we can run around, we can punch, we can blow a whistle, but that doesn't seem to necessarily do anything yet. But as you can see, our abilities are quite limited because we are just Captain Olimar, and Captain Olimar doesn't seem like he can really do jack because he's tiny. And he's got like a limp-wristed little fist swing. But we come over here and where is it? I really wish I had some camera control here so I could see where I was going. Here we go.
A strange thing has appeared before me. I'd barely begun my search when it reared up as if it were waiting for me. It then dropped a single seed. What is it? Is it alive? Is it a machine? It resembles a vegetable on my home planet that we call an onion. I shall call this an onion too.
So, there's poisonous oxygen here, and there's a thing called an onion, so already it's kind of obvious kind of where we might be, but you have to wait around a few seconds for this thing to sprout, and
the seed that the onion dropped took root in the soil and has now produced an adorable little sprout. The sprout emits a strange light, and it sways back and forth without benefit of wind. I cannot help but think it is calling to me. I am compelled. I must approach it and press A, and they have a really weird perspective of the GameCube controller from, like, above for some reason. I have no idea why they did it that way, but I'm just gonna pull this. Press A, and it's a Pikmin. Oh, it's a Pikmin. Extraordinary! When I plucked this sprout, it turned out to be a living creature, not a plant. Picking it has done no visible damage. It just stands there, staring at me. Its shape is similar to the Pick brand carrots I love so much. I believe I shall call it a Pikmin.
Well, now you know it's called a Pikmin.
Here I am, stranded on a toxic planet, fighting to survive, and yet I'm intrigued. I must research this fascinating creature. I shall try to grab it and throw it with A, and I will call it to my side with B. Perhaps it will react to C and X as well. So this is just kind of giving you the controls in order to kind of play around. And now they're finally giving you the camera controls, which I'm not going to read out. By the way, the voice I'm doing, I'm trying to be close to the voice that Olimar has officially, because he doesn't really get voice acting, but he does have like a deep, weird voice that's kind of given to him in other games. So, as you can see, we can zoom out, and this is... You immediately fell over. This Pikmin immediately fell to the ground. That's going to be happening a lot in this LP, I'm guessing. So, his first instinct with this new fascinating creature is to throw it. I hope that he never had any dogs or cats as a kid. So, you throw him around, and you hit this thing, and they'll pick it up, and he carries it. And this is kind of the main function of Pikmin, is throwing Pikmin at things and carrying things. And by doing so, it will shoot out a couple seeds. This day is going to be a little bit slow because day 1 is definitely a tutorial day. Astonishing! The onion has sown more seeds. The small red pellet the Pikmin harvested after cutting down a flower appears to be some type of food that can propagate more Pikmin. The onion seems to be a sort of incubator. Needless to say, I must study this strange life form more.
So as we see, and as we're going to be doing, we are going to do just that. We're going to knock down more of these and get this Pikmin to kind of gather as many as we can. Now, you may know the main gimmick of Pikmin is that every day has a time limit, but that's not really the case in day 1. Day 1 in basically every Pikmin game, there are 3 Pikmin games, has no time limit, just so you can get time to associate yourself with the controls and the mechanics of the game in a stress-free environment. Because Pikmin, as it is a stressful get up and over here. Okay, so it is generally not a stress-free game. This was one of the first games by Miyamoto where he definitely wanted stress on the player to be a motivating factor. And when I was a little 10-year-old who was playing this for the first time, I couldn't wrap my mind around it, and it was just a little overwhelming. But, you know, that was the idea, is that this game is supposed to have a sense of overwhelmingness and just looming clock, but we're not going to see that for a while yet. So yeah, now that we have 5 Pikmin with us, we can kind of get the controls a little better. We can swarm them around the C-stick and play this great little music number that plays as they do that. And that's just adorable and cute. And there are flies in the bugs everywhere. So you can already kind of tell by engaging with the surroundings that everything seems huge here. Giant stumps, big flowers and leaves. Something is going on. And also, while they're carrying that, I'm going to pick these guys and put them to work. But I may as well wait here for them to send it up the chute. Pikmin is a beginner's RTS. It has been described as a beginner's RTS, real-time strategy, and that you have to manage your units, but it's different from most RTSs in that most RTSs are point and click and give you a very firm control of what you're doing, because... Where was I going with that? It gives you very firm control of what you're doing because it's intuitive to have a mouse that you could just, mouse and keyboard, where you can just click on what you want to do, what you want to grab and all that, and usually that'll get the job done. I think I am missing something around here. I don't appear to be, but I digress. I do that a lot, and I'm going to try to do that less in this LP. So I'm going to push them over to this box, and they're going to push it. But yes, computer games, computer RTSs have a much more fluid control and much more preciseness. Pikmin does not exactly have precise control, and it's kind of built around that fact. Usually. We'll be seeing how it's not later.
The Pikmin are as curious as children. They form groups to perform tasks that would be impossible for an individual. A glimmer of hope has begun to shine in my heart. If I can make use of their skills, perhaps I can fix my ship. I shall sum up all I've learned of Pikmin conduct.
And this is kind of a summary of everything that you've learned so far, and these are the main mechanics in the game. This is by no means the end of the tutorial. There's still a lot we're going to be learning as we play the game, and there are going to be sections that are kind of done like this. But all in all, the tutorial's pretty short, and there's a lot of like button combinations, but they kind of give you time to kind of play around. And what is this? Oh man, that GameCube rendering. This was intense back in the day.
Amazing! There's no mistaking it. My ship's engine rests before my very eyes. By a pure stroke of luck, I have already stumbled upon the most important piece of my damaged craft. Fate has smiled upon me, but how will I get it back to the dolphin?
Well, as if it wasn't obvious by what you've been doing so far, you gotta use the Pikmin. Now, the fractions in this game are kind of weird. They put the number on top and the Pikmin on the bottom. I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's because the Pikmin are underneath the weight of the object. Maybe that's what they were going for. But as you can see, 12 Pikmin is not enough to carry this load. Also, as you can see, you can put more Pikmin on an object to carry it than you need to actually carry it. So, like, that needs 5 to carry, but you can put upwards of that, and the pellets need 1, but you can get 2 to carry it. And you do want to do this as often as you can, because the more Pikmin you put on something, the faster they carry it, and this makes a world of difference later on with heavier objects. So it's important to keep in mind. But at the same time, when you're carrying a lot of objects, you don't want to waste too many Pikmin carrying stupid crap, so be careful about that. And this was actually kind of a problem in Pikmin 1, is you kind of have to wait around for them to sprout. Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3 kind of fixed that, and here it's kind of teaching us,
when many Pikmin seeds sprout at once, I find it rather tedious to pluck them from the ground individually. My wife always told me I was no good at routine tasks. I guess I'll try to get it all done by repeatedly tapping the A until I pick them all from the ground. I've noticed that when I add Pikmin to my group, they become filled with excitement and flushed with bright color. At other times, they revert to a paler hue and give off a dim glow. Paying close attention to these differences is bound to help me distinguish between Pikmin.
so that's kind of telling you just how to distinguish between Pikmin that are in your party and ones that aren't. It's funny because they kind of remove this mechanic in later Pikmin. So what happens is you remove them from your party and see they're all pale and uncomfortable and they look kind of naked, but you bring them back in your party and they get flushed with color. They took this out in Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3, like I said, but it was never really a problem. And in retrospect, the paling just seems kind of weird in context why they would just do that. But anyway, we are up to 25 Pikmin. This is the maximum you can have on day 1. And once this, I advise you get this many on day 1 if you can. So that's gonna be all we can do on this day. Day 1, stress-free, just teaching you the basic mechanics of the game in a low-stress environment, and giving you about 25 Pikmin with which to start the game if you choose to get them. At a very bare minimum, you'll have 20 Pikmin, because you have to have 20 in order to lift this engine piece, the engine in its entirety. So 30 ship parts, that's the first one, and Pikmin will just have to carry that all the way back to the ship. That is quite a crash landing and quite the damage. I never really used the camera zoomed in this close, or even at this location. I always keep it zoomed out all the way I can, because I find it very important to have an eye on your surroundings at pretty much all times. So that's just my philosophy for playing this game. And they can carry it a little faster. There's a lot of waiting in Pikmin 2. Well, in Pikmin 1 rather, but Pikmin 1 also. And we can see the engine pop on the bottom. I love that effect. And the music plays happily, and it looks glorious. That is the most glorious wreck I've ever seen.
Oh, glorious! With the help of these Pikmin, I've taken a huge step back toward home. My ship can once again lift off. The glimmer of hope is beginning to burn more brightly. But what has become of the remaining parts? That search starts tomorrow.
So immediately after you do that, the day ends. You're kind of walking around, and even though Olimar doesn't understand quite entirely what's going on with the Pikmin, he still blows his whistle because, well, maybe he's stressed. At the end of every day, the Pikmin go into their onion, and you go into your ship. Today was a very tutorial-y day, but that's okay. That's just how the first kind of episodes are going to be a little bit slow and just kind of building up our resources and getting used to the mechanics of the game as the game teaches them to us at its pace. But at the end of every day, we get a little journal entry.
One day since impact, I've somehow managed to launch the Dolphin, but I was surprised to see the Onion lift off with me. Perhaps the Pikmin cannot survive overnight on the planet's surface, or have they merely decided to join me for other reasons? Either way, it seems they will help me again tomorrow. The Dolphin is missing 29 parts. If I can't recover them all, I may never return home to my family on planet Hocketate. Analysis shows life support systems will function for only 29 more days. How can I repair my Dolphin in such a short time? A dense forest is visible on the surface below. As it holds the key to my survival, I name it the Forest of Hope. I explore it tomorrow.
That journal entry is always the same, but the journal entries can be kind of randomized because starting from here on and gradually as you get throughout the game, you get a little more agency on what you want to do each day and what can happen on each day. So we have 29 parts and 29 days. It will not take us the full 29 days to get all 29 parts, but when I was young it did, and that's stressful as heck. So we're just gonna, I probably shouldn't have saved until I knew that this recording would work, but I digress. I need to stop doing that, I'm sorry. That unlocks the Forest of Hope, which we will start in the next episode. So, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of Pikmin 1, and I hope to see somebody in the next one. Bye-bye!